Let's talk about one of the most staggering contradictions on the planet, the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's a country sitting on what is basically a treasure trove of natural resources, just immense, unimaginable riches. And yet, its people are among the poorest in the world. So how on earth is that possible?
I mean, this really just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got what's under the ground. Gold, diamonds, cobalt, the very things that power our modern world. And then on the other side, you've got the reality for the people living there. Poverty, sickness, and just no jobs. This is the paradox we're going to try to unpack.
And that brings us to our first section. This incredible gap between the wealth in the ground and the well-being of the people, well, it has a name. The Congo paradox. It's a puzzle that has defined the country for ages. And, it also makes you ask some pretty tough questions about how our whole global economy works.
And really, it all boils down to this one question. It's the big one. With all of that natural wealth right under their feet, why isn't the country, and more importantly, why aren't its people thriving? Let's start to break that down.
Okay, so let's tackle the first half of this paradox, the resources themselves. Because to really get why this situation is so tragic, you have to appreciate the sheer scale of the Congo's wealth. And I'm not exaggerating when I say it's absolutely astonishing.
The variety of what's there is just mind-boggling. We're not just talking about gold and diamonds, though there's plenty of that. You've also got massive reserves of copper and nickel. And then there's cobalt, which is a huge deal right now, because it's essential for the batteries in our phones, in our laptops, in our electric cars. But the wealth isn't just minerals. The land itself is a powerhouse.
Yeah, this really sums it up perfectly. Below the ground, you have all those minerals. But on the surface, the land is so incredibly fertile you could have crops growing all year round. We're talking about the potential to feed a huge part of the continent. So on paper, this country should be an economic giant.
So if the potential is that huge, where does it all go so wrong? And that question right there, that brings us to the really tough part, the deep-rooted reasons for all this poverty.
This quote just says it all. The country's greatest asset, its natural wealth, it didn't end up being a blessing. It became a curse. The fight to control all those resources didn't build the nation up. It just fueled war, corruption, and total chaos.
And this isn't a new problem, not at all. It's a long and, frankly, brutal history of exploitation. It started way back in the colonial era, with foreign powers just stripping the country of its wealth. And today, well, the players might look a little different, but the game is often the same. International corporate interests continue that pattern, often taking advantage of all the instability to get what they want.
This happens so often that economists actually have a term for it, the resource curse. And it is a perfect description of the situation in the Congo. It's this bizarre reality where having tons of valuable stuff actually leads to worse outcomes, less growth, less stability, because that wealth just attracts corruption and exploitation like a magnet.
And that brings us to the part that really matters most, because we have to look beyond the economics. This resource curse isn't just some abstract theory in a textbook. It has a devastating, real-world human cost.
So who pays the price for this paradox? Well, the number you're seeing right now says it all. We're talking about tens of millions of people. This isn't some small, isolated issue. It's the daily reality for a massive part of the population whose lives have been shaped by this conflict and poverty.
And the results are exactly what you would expect when a country's wealth is stolen instead of invested in its people. There's no money for the basics, for good schools, for decent hospitals, for steady jobs. It just creates this vicious cycle of poverty and disease that is so hard to break out of.
And this, right here, is maybe the cruelest irony in all of this. The very cobalt that's being dug out of the ground in the Congo might be powering the green energy revolution in other countries, but the people who live right on top of that cobalt, they see almost none of the benefits. The world develops, and they're just left behind.
So after looking at the history, the economics, and the unbelievable human cost, we're left with one final major question. Where does the Congo go from here?
This is the question that just hangs over everything, isn't it? To finally break the resource curse, that would take a monumental shift. It would take strong, transparent government. It would mean finally having true control over their own national wealth. Can they do it? For now, that remains a huge open question, and literally, the future of millions of people is hanging on the answer.